An insane animation style is going viral on Instagram and TikTok.
Elon Musk isn't just a CEO, he's a business empire in one man. He owns Tesla, SpaceX, X, Neuralink, and The Boring Company.
In this video, I will show you exactly how to recreate it step by step in After Effects. You will find the project file and all the assets used for this animation down in the description. So let's get into it. Alright, the first thing we need to do is jump into After Effects. The animation we are creating is designed for Instagram Reels, TikTok and YouTube Shorts. So they all use a vertical format. I'm going to rearrange my workspace a bit. I will just move this panel aside to get more space. It just makes it easier to see what we are doing. Next up, let's create our main composition. Let's name it main. A width of 1080 and a height of 1920 should work just fine. First thing first, let's build our background. New, solid. We can name it background. The color doesn't matter right now because we are going to change it later. We are going to apply 3 simple effects to create a really clean and textured look. First, search for the gradient ramp effect and apply it. Let's change the start color to light gray and end color to slightly darker gray. Let's go to ramp shape and change it to radial ramp. Now just drag the start of the ramp to the center of the screen and the end of the ramp down to the bottom. Perfect. Second, let's add the posterize effect. I think a value around 161 looks good. And third, we will add some texture with the noise effect. About 3% should be perfect. Great, the background's ready. For the next part, we are going to animate text, just like this. Let's grab the text tool and type out our first word. I will be using the Roboto font for this with the black style. Adjust the anchor point if it isn't already. Now let's make this text layer 3D. To adjust the size and position, I'll press P, then hold Shift and press S to add a scale. Okay, that's looking really good. Time to animate. Let's create keyframe for position and opacity on frame 0. And do the same thing at the frame 12. At the frame 0, move the text slightly downwards and set the opacity to 0. From the effect and preset, add Gaussian blur. At frame 0, increase the blur to 25. At frame 12, reduce it back to 0. Now select the layer and press Y and select the all keyframes. If we play this back, the animation is very robotic. We have to fix it. Now for that super smooth and professional look, I'm going to use a fantastic plugin called Flow. It's a paid plugin, but it's a huge time saver. And I will choose this preset and make sure to select all your keyframes and click apply. Perfect. That's exactly what we wanted. For the next text, we just duplicate the Elon layer and rename it to Musk. Modifying the size and position until it feels right. Let's see how that looks. Let's move mask layer a few frames ahead so it doesn't show up at the same time as Elon layer. Great. For our last piece of text, let's type isn't just a CEO. I will use Roboto again, but this time with the regular style. Again, center the anchor point, make it 3D and adjust the position and scale. To animate this one, I will use a powerful script, call it Text Evo 2. It's great for creating complex text animations quickly. Click on it and the script will automatically generate 2 keyframes. Click on the Text Evo again, then select Words. Now let's adjust the settings. Set delay to 4%, click on Transform, now position, and increase the X value. Set opacity to 0. I think it needs something. The words need to start blurry and then clear up as they appear. To do that, go to Style and increase blur. It's perfect. For the next part, we're creating camera movement. Just like this. Now we need to bring a camera. You can use the settings you see here or the camera's default. It doesn't really matter for this project. Animating a camera directly can be tricky. A much better workflow is to use a null object as a camera controller. Make sure you center its anchor point. Make it 3D, and now parent the camera to null object. From now on, any animation we apply to the null will control the camera. It gives you so much more control. Set keyframes where you want the camera movement to start and end. Adjust the second keyframe to position it the way you like. The camera move still feels stiff. Select both keyframes and press F9. To make the camera movement smoother, here is what usually works in my experience. Go to keyframe velocity, Go ahead and enter the same values I'm using here. Change this to 65. We also need to change the next keyframe a bit. Change this to 65. Change this to 17. Looks great. Now let's import the image of Elon Musk and the background buildings. Now let's create a new folder and name it Images. Now just drag the images into the folder we just created. All the files used in this video are available via a link in the description. Now let's bring the Elon Musk image into the timeline. Make it 3D. Adjust their position and scale as needed. I think it looks really good. Now let's bring the buildings image into the timeline. For the buildings image, I wanted to fade in softly. Let's use the pen tool to create a mask around the buildings. We need to adjust the mask expansion and mask feather. Click on masks, then click mask 1. Decrease the mask expansion and increase the mask feather. Now, to make the buildings image fade in smoothly, we need to create keyframes for both mask expansion and mask opacity. We create one keyframe for mask expansion here and another one here. We do exactly the same for the mask opacity. And of course, select the keyframes and press F9 to smooth it out. Looking good. For this part, we are going to create a ring and a few circles around Elon Musk, exactly like this. Let's now build the ring around Elon Musk. First, create a circle shape. Set fill to none. Set the stroke to around 7. Use color code CFFDB0. Adjust the anchor point to around 7. Make it 3D. Press Ctrl and Home. Now let's adjust the position and scale until it looks good. I think it looks really good. Now let's create the green dots. This time set the fill to solid. Copy the color code and paste it here. Make it 3D. This step is simple. We are just positioning the green dots. Because this part is time consuming, I will speed it up. Now let's see how it looks. Looks great. Let's move on. For this part, we are going to create a rotating coin that reveals different logos. Let's create a new composition and name it coin. It's helpful to turn on the transparency grid. For the coin itself, I've already prepared a 3D model that I made it in Blender. Don't worry, you don't need to be a 3D artist for this tutorial. I've included the model file for you to download it. Let's drag the coin model into our composition. Press P, then Shift S, then Shift R. Rotate it 90 degrees on X-axis. I also scale it down a bit. Rotate it 90 degrees on Z-axis. Create a keyframe at frame 0 and another a few frames ahead. Let's bring this down from 90 to 0. The animation looks stiff. Let's fix that. Select both keyframes and press F9. Go to keyframe velocity and enter the same values I'm using here. Change this to 88. Change this to 28. We also need to change the next keyframe. Change this to 8. Change this to 81.5. Change this to 17. After each rotation, there should be a small pause to let viewers clearly see the logo. So at this point, I'm adding a keyframe and we won't make any changes to it. Just leave it the way it is. Add another keyframes and rotate to minus 180 degrees. To make this animation really smooth, use the Flow plugin again. Then apply it. Perfect. Just like before, we are adding another keyframe to create a short pause. Let's see how it turned out. Looks great. Time for the logos. I have all the logos here. And they are all included in the project file. Let's bring the first logo into the timeline. Let's adjust the position and scale until it looks good. Looks great. Now parent the logo to the coin. As soon as the coin completes a spin, press Ctrl-Shift-D to cut the layer so it doesn't continue in the timeline. Why do we need to do this? Because with each spin of the coin, a new logo needs to appear. If we don't do this, multiple logos will show up at the same time. Bring the next logo, adjust the position and scale. We do the same steps for this logo as we did for the previous one. Now let's parent it to the coin. shorten the layer a bit. Repeat this for all logos. Let's check the final result. Exactly what we wanted. In this part, we are going to create the names shown for each logo. Alright, back to the main composition to build the rest of the video. For the rest of the video, I will cut out the unnecessary parts. So I'm selecting all the layers and splitting them at the point where the first part ends, using Ctrl+Shift+D and delete. We need a background for the part we are going to create. An easy way is to duplicate the background and bring it to the top. To make it a little different, I will go into the gradient ramp effect and click swap colors, just making this a little darker. Now we place the coin with the logos exactly where the second background starts. Make it 3D and adjust the position and scale the way you want. Now we need to create a half circle shape. First, grab the ellipse tool and draw a circle. Set the fill to none. Let's change the stroke to 6. And then change the color of the stroke. Reduce its opacity. And adjust the position and scale the way you want. Select circle in timeline, right click, mask, new mask. Playing around with the mask to create a half circle shape. Adjust the mask feather and mask opacity to whatever looks good to you. Now let's add the text that goes with each logo. We can save a lot of time by duplicating the Elon text layer. Let's drag it up. Simply rename it to Tesla. Now adjust the position and scale the way you want. We'll duplicating the main text and then position it where we think it looks best. This is really basic. To save your time on this simple step, I will speed this up. Let's see the result. Perfect. For this part, we are going to bring everything together using a smooth camera movement. Okay, time for the final part. Let's start by creating a new null object. Make it 3D. I will just extend the null1 layer in the timeline. Now let's parent null1 to null2. We'll create a keyframe here and another keyframe here. Let's move it up a bit. Let's see the result. The animation is still stiff, not what we want. Let's select both keyframes and press F9. I will use the Flow plugin again. That's exactly what we wanted. Now, to make it look more professional, let's add a camera move to the coin section. So we need to create a null object. Now I will select everything in the coin part except the background and parent it to the node3 which we just made. Let's also create two keyframes for node3. I will use the Flow plugin again. Perfect. Okay, we have an issue here. The problem with the static camera is that makes the animation feels less dynamic and professional. So let's add a new null object, make it 3D, press F9, now let's see the final result. Perfect. Thank you for watching and I will see you guys in the next video.